کاوش مدیا.
Well, for more on that oil tanker controversy and why it's so combustible, I'm joined now in the studio by our international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert. Hi, Doug. Now, Lebanon, as we know, is in the midst of a huge economic crisis. The World Bank saying we haven't seen anything like it since the 19th century. The country desperately needs fuel right now, but not apparently if it's coming from Iran.
Yeah, and look, what we're seeing right now, this is a geopolitical perfect storm. Everything that might be able to go wrong could go wrong here. You basically have Lebanon's most powerful militia. It's also a political group, Hezbollah, Shiite businessmen reportedly tied to Hezbollah, ordering oil from Iran, a country that has been under stiff Western, especially U.S. sanctions since 2018 when Donald Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal, a country where the Western goal is really to cut Iran's oil shipments out of the country to zero. So you have Iran, which is deemed public enemy number one by a lot of the West, at least the West aligned with the U.S. and Israel, shipping oil to Lebanon on the orders of a party that is not actually its governing, not its ruling party, but its most powerful militia, and one deemed a terrorist group by the U.S., Israel, and much of the West. Now, let's add to the brew here and make it a little more combustible. You have the leader, Nasser Nasrallah. Let's actually see what he's saying. Just read this quote that he said as this ship sets sail towards the Mediterranean. We don't want to get into a challenge with anyone. We don't want to get into a problem with anyone. We want to help our people. I say to the Americans and the Israelis that the boat will sail within hours from Iran is Lebanese territory. He's saying that this Iranian oil tanker is Lebanon, i.e. U.S. Israel. If you dare take any moves and you strike at this ship or do anything provocative, you're essentially striking at Lebanon. Talk about setting up a combustible situation. Now, here's where it gets really tricky. You say that, okay, so Hezbollah is deemed a terrorist group. Iran is public enemy number one from the U.S. and Israel. Both of those countries warily watching, although Israel declining to comment on whether at this point it would take any military action. But you say Hassan Nasrallah playing it very politically coy and savvy, saying, you know what? This is just the beginning. More of these types of shipments are yet to come. Why? Because we just want to help the Lebanese people. They are in dire need right now of everything, and fuel is their one of their number one needs. So it is one of these situations where Hezbollah is setting itself up as the champion of the people, coming to the rescue of the poor Lebanese people at a time when they have nothing. Now, the U.S. is countering, we don't need, Lebanon doesn't need Iranian oil. Lebanon has plenty of oil waiting offshore on ships, waiting to unload. The intimation being perhaps Egyptian oil. The U.S. is it. But the fact is, none of that oil has unloaded yet. No other oil, no other source of oil has come to Lebanon. Hezbollah and Iran right now, when it comes to oil for Lebanon, it's the only game in town.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند